Hello, everyone. Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle.
Hello.
And this is week 2 for July. We are reading All Superheroes Need PR by Elizabeth Stevens.
Yeah, they do need PR,
They do.
especially Pyro slash Wyvern
They
slash Roland.
really do. Um, so we left off with Roland picking her up from the park after she had her accident slash bad surprise from the reporter jumping out at her.
Yeah.
So Roland takes her back to the COE to get looked at by the doctor, because her ankle is pretty badly sprained. And in his mind, he's thinking about her and how he stole her file that they have on her and read it. So he now knows all about her history and like why she's anxious and all that kind of stuff, right? And also when he looks at her, his eyes are white sometimes, which had never happened before he met her. Like they were always orange, like if he was angry, like fire, or like pink if he was like normal, and now they are like white when he looks at her sometimes. Uh, and he wants to murder those reporters, who
He also, there's
caused her
been
to
a
be hurt.
couple of times, sorry, there's been a couple times where they're like, where he is like, I have this feeling in my chest. Um, and first was a pinging and then it was different, but it's still, he keeps having this feeling.
Yeah, he does
Who
have
knows
a
what it could
feeling,
be?
feeling for the first time. So yeah, he wants to murder those reporters who were harassing her. Um,
And not figuratively. He is
no, he
like,
wants to kill
I need
them.
to figure out where they live.
And he says to her, just like kind of out of the blue, they've been sitting there like quietly waiting for the doctor, and then he says to her, "I'm moving my stuff in tomorrow." And she's like, "Okay, but I should tell you again." Like, and then the doctor comes in. Dr. Larson, her name is Emily. She says, "Call me Emily." He starts that like growling, purring sound thing again, and the doctor immediately clocks it and is like, "You didn't say that was a thing when we did your intake." And he was like, "It wasn't a thing then." And she's like, "Well, you didn't tell me the last time I saw you either." And he's like, like,
She's
and
also like, new things are happening. What? Why?
yes.
And he is just like, nobody knows.
Yes.
Look at
He
her.
she of course wants to know more, and he's like, not right now. And so she basically tells her like it's a grade 2 sprain, you got to stay off it for 2 weeks, like here's a brace, etc.
She's also like, you're gonna feel better at some point, but you still have to use the brace. You still need to keep off of
Yes.
it.
It's like the same vibes as like your doctor telling you just because you feel better doesn't mean you stop your antibiotics. Like keep going. And so and then the doctor turns back to him and is like, "Okay, now about the growling thing." And he's like, "Nope, we're going. Bye." And he like picks her up.
She's immediately like, I can walk. And he's like, literally, she just said, no, you
He's
can't.
like, "No, you can't. Have you not been listening?" And so he picks her up and she's like, "Where are we going?" And he's like, "For coffee." So they do. They go have coffee. And so the next thing we see is he's bringing her home from the coffee shop. And it was his first time ever in a coffee shop, which she like cannot believe. But he's like, "Yeah, they don't really have those out in the boonies. Like an unincorporated Sundale's the name of the town where they live. And like it's like unincorporated Sundale's like where he grew up." And he says something like, "Yeah, in the boonies, not far from you."
Where you grew up. He's like, I wasn't far from you, just at different times.
And
And
she
she is like,
freezes at first. And then she's like, "How do you know where I grew up?" And he says, "I stole your file." Like very nonchalant. And she's like,
he's like, I read your file. And she's like, they gave you my file. And he's oh
like,
no,
"No, I stole it." She's like,
they, they would never. I just took it.
she says, "You had no right. I want you to leave." And he's like, "No, I live here now." And she's like, and so, and then he said, they're arguing back and forth. And he said something to her like, "How do you get close to anybody if you never open up?" And she's like, "Maybe I don't." And they're both hurt and they're saying mean things to each other. And finally, he pulls his meds out of her meds out of his pocket and hands them to her and throws the ice pack on her ankle. And he's like, "Stay off your feet." And he leaves. And
She
afterward,
is a little bit like she's shaken for multiple reasons. One we already know is that she's just like, what the heck? Like, why is he looking at my
well, and we
personal
know from
information
being in
without?
her head that nobody knows this. Even the people that she works with she's the closest to, none of them really know about her childhood, which is on purpose. She doesn't talk about it. She tries not to think about it, which is impossible. Like the only people that know that are like her adoptive family, basically.
And even then, like I'm not convinced that she's told like any that
No.
she's told them things.
Yeah.
They just
Inferred
anyway.
things from her behavior.
She
Yeah.
she though is also shaken because she yelled at him
Yeah.
and they had like a fight.
Yeah.
And she is just like, I need to talk to my therapist because this is not a thing that I do, mostly because I have never felt safe enough
Yes.
to
And that's
get
she's
mad at
almost
someone
giddy.
and
Like
yell at
she's
them.
crying because she's upset, but also she's kind of laughing because she's like, "Oh my God, I yelled at somebody and they yelled at me and I never felt unsafe. I never felt worried. Like it was just like a normal argument."
But
And
like
like,
normally she would freeze or cower or like
yeah,
shrink back. And in this case, she stood her ground and she is just like, this is not good. Like
in
need to
theory,
talk to therapists about
right.
maybe having like better tools to deal with this sort of like upset.
Yeah.
However, it is
However,
probably a
I just
good
got in a
step
fight and I'm
forward
okay. Like everything's fine. Like amazing. So, it's a breakthrough really for her. Like this has never happened in her adult life. So the next day, Marjorie calls and says, "Your boy is at the skate park with those kids that helped you, and he set up a school savings account for each one of them."
for each of them. Ten
And
thousand
she's
dollars a
like,
piece.
"There
I
was like
don't know how
20
many of
kids
those kids
there,"
were, but yeah.
and she's like, "Well, yeah, like he did it, you know." And so it's 10
But
grand each too.
she's like, he gets paid, but it's not like he has that much money in there. Like he just started working for these people. He
Yeah,
might have gotten his first paycheck. This is probably all of it.
it's probably his entire first paycheck.
And
Yeah,
she's like uh
right.
completely like, what?
Totally at a
And
loss.
and
And
she's
then,
and she
sorry,
they ask like, okay, well, how come you're not there? And she's
yeah.
just kind of like, well, I didn't, this was all his. Well, he's gone into the office and told everyone that this is all her idea, and the only reason she's not going is because she's not supposed to be on her
Because of
ankle,
her
which is
ankle. Yeah.
true.
But then
But
Marjorie is like busted, basically, and she's like, "That's his entrapment." And now he's like skating with the kids. Like he has his own board. He's like skating. And so she's
he
going,
clearly is a skater, though. Like
yeah,
he's got a custom board that fits his
big enough for him.
proportions,
Yeah,
and he's a big person, so it wouldn't, it's not like he just picked one up on the way or borrowed one. Like this
right.
is, and he's good,
Yeah.
and he's all over social media, and
So
people
she goes
people are
online and she's
telling
seeing all these videos and she is just like so like she doesn't want to be as impressed as she is. Is the vibe that you get.
yeah.
And Marjorie tells her that they've got a photographer that she's just hired to go on all of the Wyvern's like trips and events that he has to go do as a champion. It's somebody they've been trying to hire for a while, but they couldn't really afford her. She's like a former war
She's a
photographer.
war
She's
correspondent.
good.
Yeah.
Like she's really good, and they could not afford her, and now they can. Um,
And she's about to start, but she
right,
like
in like a 4 or 5 days is like when she's gonna start. So meanwhile, her team also had a talk and with the Wyvern and had to talk him out of melting the organs of all the reporters that were harassing her. And Marjorie is telling her all this with glee, right? Like just fully embracing the like this man and his crazy is so much fun, right? And um and then she's like
also
at the
she's
end of the
like,
meeting.
I think he likes you.
Yes.
He was willing, he wanted to go like melt all those people's internal organs, and she
Yes. And then also
Vanessa's
she's
like,
like, and
what?
also at the end of the meeting, he asked all the women, like, what do you like from your partner when they mess up? Like,
Like
what
how do
works
they
for you as
how
like
do
an
they
apology?
yeah.
And so they were like, we all suggested, it's not one size fits all. Like, you should really talk to your partner. But if your partner's a person who doesn't like talking very much, then maybe a grand gesture would not go amiss, basically. And so she,
Jeremy, who's also one of her coworkers, was like,
yeah,
I said diamonds, but
yeah.
whatever, whatever you like.
And so it's a cute moment of her and her friend on the phone, and her friend is just like glee telling her how much this guy clearly likes her, right? And also the other thing she finally said is that he told the COE that he was holding off on moving in with her. And she's like, "Well, that's good because I only have one bed." And I was like, "Yes, perfection." So apparently
She
she
is
doesn't have
feeling
guests over.
guilty. She's feeling guilty because they
Yeah.
had already because he had said he was moving in with her right away.
Yeah.
They had already kind of gotten rid of all his old apartment, his old
Yeah.
stuff, and so now he's having to like stay
He's
in a
like in a
hotel while
hotel.
he figures out what's going on. And she feels a little guilty about that.
She does, but she doesn't have a guest room because she turned it into a library because she lives alone and she never had
She
people
has
at
a
her house.
3 bedroom house, library, and she does invoke the Beauty and the Beast,
Yes.
which makes me
The
very
ladder.
interested in seeing
Yes.
what that is.
Yes.
An office and her
And
bedroom.
her room. Yep.
So
So only one
there are
bed.
no.
So they work for out. Marjorie shows up at the door. Like as they're talking on the phone, she shows up at the door. And then the rest of the team comes. And so they work for hours and she kind of like looks up from a fugue state of working after like 5 or 6 hours to them all watching breaking news on the TV about these people that are buried
Oh,
in an
we should
avalanche.
mention that Marjorie does ask like what he did,
Yeah.
and Vanessa tells her like, well, he stole my file and looked at all of my like even my therapy notes, everything. And she was like, oh, that sounds like a stalker. Like, this is
Yeah.
not,
And one of
which
the other
Vanessa
guys is
kind of,
like, I would have given it to him. And she's like, oh, I did. And Marjorie's like, you did? Like, you yelled at him? And she was like, yeah. Because, like, Marjorie is clearly her closest friend and knows more about her and her tendencies than, like, anybody else on the team. And so
yeah.
when everybody else is like, oh, good. And she's like, you did? Like, she's shocked that this, happened and that she's like,
Hmm.
okay. And so Marjorie is definitely picking up on the details that, the other people are not. And it's very cute.
It's sweet.
Um, so there's been an avalanche. Some people are buried. They have this one champion Pele who controls like lava and has laser sight, and she was trying to help, but like one of the tunnels collapsed, and it's like a whole mess. And
Also,
so,
this one does kind of give us a glimpse into how all this stuff works because,
yeah,
like, the hero compendium or whatever, like, sent her
right,
to deal with this. And so because they felt like her powers would be
like
useful in this
best.
particular situation. But there were people trapped like in their hotel villas
Right,
things. There's also a group of students who were like out in the snow and got trapped. And there was also like FEMA
right, like rescue
basically
workers. Yeah,
who were trying to get them out. And when the lava lady was doing her thing, actually some of the stuff that they had dug out collapsed, and so now they're
onto
trapped
them.
under there
So
too.
now they're stuck. Yeah, it's a whole mess. And so Vanessa, is trying to work. She's like gonna put out a PR statement about the whole hero thing because now she's working for the COE and all that. And then her team kind of leaves. And then her brothers come over for dinner, and Mr. Sinkum calls and says that the Wyvern has been deployed to the site to assist with the rescue. He volunteered because she's like, oh, did they think his power like would be good for
They're
that?
like,
And
oh,
she
that
was like,
lava lady melted stuff.
right.
Like, do
And
we
she
think
and
that
he's like,
sending a
no,
fire?
he decided his power would be good. Like he volunteered.
He
And
said he like assured them that he could fix
yeah.
this.
Yeah,
And
and
so
because he's not supposed to have his first mission until like it was already like pre-scheduled or whatever as like a photo op situation. And but Mr. Sinkin was like the fact that he volunteered based on his history, like I wasn't gonna be like no. You know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, like if you say so, right? So he flew
and
out on his own.
Vanessa's like, oh, when are you leaving? Because
Yeah.
I could send the photographer with you. I just need to make some calls. And he's just like,
30
30
minutes.
minutes, we can
Yeah.
wait.
So
That's
yeah,
it.
Wyvern flew himself, but the security team and everybody else is gonna like fly on a plane and meet him out there basically. And so she's getting her photographer on that plane too. So she calls this woman, Monica, the new photographer, and was like, how would you like to work 4 days early? And like she gets her on the plane. So Marjorie comes back over and they're all watching everything on TV and they start taking photos. Like her brother takes a picture of them all watching it on TV and like
All
they
I
start
could think
posting on
of
social media and
was
stuff.
that like when Osama bin Laden was killed, like that's all I
Mhm.
could think of because they were like taking pictures of them reacting
Like to the TV
to the
screen. Yeah.
news and stuff.
Hmm.
But also they're receiving information from kind of behind the scenes because
Right.
they
Because of their
have
position.
context.
Yes. And then, of course, once Monica gets there, they start getting her photos of things that are happening. So basically, the Wyvern. they're watching this news coverage and he starts carrying people out of the snow, like
Like right
in
away.
groups, like 6 or 7 people at a time, right? Some of them are injured, some of them are okay. I think it says later a couple of them do end up dying, but like he's pulling these people out, many people at a time, and they're getting all these amazing photographs from this photographer. Like she's like, oh my God, she's worth every penny. Like this is amazing, right?
Also,
Um,
like I think she went in places she wasn't supposed to,
yes.
like in the chaos of them trying to like deal with these injured people, she like
Right. She
snuck
kind of
herself.
slips in with him. Yeah. And like gets pictures of inside the tunnel and all that kind of stuff. And so they're watching all night. Her brother, everybody's asleep all over her living room, her brothers and Marjorie. And she's debating texting him. What is she gonna text him? She comes up with a few things and then she
First
deletes
of
them.
all, at the beginning of this, she had written like a 12-page dissertation. I don't know what to
Yes,
call
like
that,
a dissertation. Yeah.
but of like these are the reasons why I was upset. I am sorry. Also, like it
Also,
was
you're terrible.
literally
Yeah.
she did narrow that down to less, but
Yes.
she still hadn't sent it because
Yes.
she was like, and then all this stuff happened,
Right.
and
And so as she's looking at it, she's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to talk to him in person. Like, I can't send any of this, right? So she's trying to think of a text to send him, and she finally settles on, You're my hero. And you get to his point of view. He's been working nonstop for 2 days, and he saw this text and he is like ready to go home, right? So
so he was originally like they're talking about him like resting up and doing blah blah blah. Next thing you know, he's gone.
yeah, no, because he's like, he was gonna rest up more and then like go back to work, but instead he just stayed up and finished what he was doing, and then he was like, I'm out. So they get a plane, but he can't fly himself home because he's a mess after like 2 days of doing what he was doing. So they get him on
Also,
a
they are
plane.
trying to like patch him up, and he's just like, "No, I'm
Yeah, like a
leaving."
needle
So
sticking out of his leg. Like they were like giving him stitches. It's a whole thing. So they're like, what do do you have a statement about whatever, like before we go? And he says to them, take me to my girl. If anyone asks, I did this for her. So of course the news is all reporting that, and Vanessa is like, can't really believe that. She feels like somebody just like made that up, right? And she's been busy obviously with all his PR stuff, like while this has been taking place. And next,
is dead tired though. So she
yes,
does send everyone home eventually because
yeah,
it's like it's even her brothers who originally had not come for this purpose ended up
right.
like taking pictures and being involved in the
Right, like they end
you
up
know.
paying her younger brother like $1,000 for his picture that he took, like from the news coverage or whatever. And later on, when the picture shows up on the news coverage, he's like, "Oh my God, I should have asked for more money." And she's like, "Too late." Like it's very funny.
It's cute.
Um, but so Roland rings her doorbell and she opens the door, assuming it's going to be somebody else. Like she doesn't expect him to be back already. And he basically just like kisses her. And then he asks if he can stay there. He's like, I don't have a place anymore. Like, I was going to go to a hotel, but like, can I stay here? And she was like, yes, absolutely. Like, yes, you can stay here
He
as long as
is
you want.
drained and he is I mean from
Yeah.
reading that I got the feeling that he was like emotionally drained, physically drained, and he was just like I cannot be in a hotel like
Yes, I need to be
tonight.
here with you. Yeah. And she's like,
Um,
absolutely, yes, I'll sleep on the couch. That's great. And he's like, no, no. Like, and she's
you
like,
will not be
well,
sleeping on.
I only have the one bed. And he's like, they get up there and he's like, it's a king size bed. Like, we're fine. Right. And also, like, I'm too tired to do anything. So, like, it doesn't matter.
She is like, you have to take a shower first, though.
Yes. Like, you literally have a needle hanging out of your knee.
All
Like, get
right.
out of here. And so it's really funny. And she also tells him, she admits she's never actually spent the night with anybody before. Like she's had sex, but she's never slept over with anybody. And he likes that. He likes that she hasn't done that. So they snuggle up in the bed.
Also,
Cute.
he takes a shower,
Yeah.
and by the time she comes back, he is in the bed. No one is sure what clothes he may or may not have.
It appears to her that he is naked.
We did not mention this, but while he was doing his superhero stuff,
Yes.
his clothes was like burning off of him, I think, because he like every time he appeared on camera, he had less and
Less
less
clothes. Yeah.
clothing. So she doesn't have clothes for him at her house.
No.
And she doesn't know but he's under the covers
And
and
she's
she's
like, I'm
just
pretty sure he's got to be naked because, like, I'm sure he wasn't putting those back on, and like, I don't have anything that fits him. Um, And so yeah, she gets in the bed and is kind of trying to do the whole like on the edge thing, and he's like, no. He like yanks her over and they like spoon. It's very cute.
Yeah.
So,
And she's like, obviously, I will never sleep because, but then she's out.
out like a light. Yes, absolutely. So the
Never,
next
never
day,
better the sleep she had that
yeah.
night.
The next day, she gets up like normal and she's just working in her home office and he's still asleep. He's been asleep for like 14
15
hours.
hours sleeping and counting. It's
And
like, is he
so,
okay?
right. So she kind of like gets some food or whatever and goes up into the room and he's still asleep. She's kind of peeping on him a little bit and she notices a strange marking on his left pec. It almost looks like a brand, like it's like a tattoo, except for it's kind of raised. And she touches it like pokes her finger in the middle of it and he kind of grabs her and throws her on the bed and then of course he wakes up and is like, what are you doing? And she says, peeping. And he's like,
Just looking at
so
you.
yeah. And so they start making out and like dry humping basically, and it's amazing for both of them, but he says basically he's like, I'm not ready for sex yet, you have to buy me dinner first. And it's very cute.
That
um
is sweet.
and so they make a date for that night and then he kind of runs off. So we see from his POV, he goes to see Dr. Emily. He talks to her about the markings that have been showing up ever since he met Vanessa. And also every morning his nails are like pointy when he wakes up. He's been having to like cut them off and like file them down. Like it started off like every few days and then it was like every other day and now it's like every day he has to do it. And so she kind of takes some like samples of his nails or whatever and she says, she'll look into it. She doesn't really know for sure like what's happening, but she's going to try to figure it
But
out.
she does want to be kept informed because she's like, this is odd that like all
Right, all
this
these things
new
are
things are happening to you
and he seems to
now.
know like that it's connected to Vanessa. And at first he doesn't really admit that. And then finally she's like, what do you like, something you're not telling me. Like if you want me to figure this out, you got to tell me. And so he's like, the only thing I know it can be linked to is her. Like it's since I met her. And so she wants him to let him the nails grow out for a week. And he's like, I'm not touching my girl for a week. And she's like, well, you can tell her or you can make up an excuse, but like this is for science, right? Like we need to figure out what's going on. And so he reluctantly agrees to that. And
And he is like, because he's not sure exactly what's happening to him, it's like that's part of the issue, I think, for him is that he's like, I cannot touch her, but also
what if I hurt her?
what is
Like,
happening?
yeah. He also she gives him some restaurant recommendations for their date for that night.
So cute.
It's very cute. And she also says she'll call down to design and have them like get him spiffed up for this date because of course he mostly wears like sweatpants. Like he does not have any like nice clothes or anything. And it's talked about many times up to this point, like he's how thick his beard is. He needs a haircut, like he's unkempt basically. So he goes to pick Nessa up. He's had a shave, he's got a new haircut, and she cannot stop staring at him. Like from the door of her house when he comes to get her to the restaurant, she's still just like staring at him. And he is like uncomfortable because it's making him hard. And they're like at dinner. And he's like, could you not? Like, what are you doing?
Keep looking at me quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they talk, and she tells him basically she's willing to open up to him when he asks things, but he can't go behind her back again for info. Like he needs to ask her if he wants to know something, and she'll do her best to tell him. And he swears that he will be good. And then she says that since he wanted this to be a real date, she will resign from the Lois Lane contract and just like be his real girlfriend, I guess, is basically what she says.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. And he gets up and he kisses her, like right there in the middle of the restaurant, like full
We should
on
mention that
kiss.
that poor waiter came and tried to like
Bless his heart.
take their, he's just like, hey, I'm Manny. And
And she's so
he
cute. She's like, oh, that's my brother's name. Like they have a little thing about that. And meanwhile, Roland is like glaring daggers at this poor kid.
he is like, I don't like anyone talking to you, looking at you, being
Right.
near
And she's
you.
like, I'm pretty sure he's freaking out over you, not me. Like, this is not about me.
It's it's really kind of, but then,
It's so cute.
this has happened to me 500,000 times, but like he comes back and is like, are you guys ready? And they have been talking, so they haven't
And
decided
like
on
falling
anything.
into each other's eyes. They have not
And
looked at anything.
it's just, yeah,
It's
poor
so
guy,
funny. It's really funny.
poor Manny.
Yes. And so he gets up and he kisses her right there in the restaurant, and then he says, "Marry me."
At that point, every single person who was pretending not to pay attention to them.
Is fully riveted. Oh yeah. And so when he says marry me, she kind of laughs it off. She's like, "Can we get through dinner first?" And he's like, "How many dinners until I get to marry you?" And she just randomly says, 22. And he says, "Then in 23 days, you'll be mine forever. Like, be ready," basically. And she's like, "Okay." Like, she's not taking him seriously at all.
She is, and he is like, I am
He
counting
is fully dead
the
serious. Yes.
coffee. I'm counting tonight. I'm
Right. Like,
coughing. Like he's,
everything we are do together is a date now. Yes. It's so cute. And I'm so glad we got this in his head because I feel like that was so important.
yeah.
Um, so they eat and they talk and it's pretty wonderful. And then back at her place, he goes to the
She
bathroom.
also kind of tells him that she knows that he like that his tendencies are what they are, but she's like, but I need you to be my hero. Like
Yeah,
even if whatever's going on in the world and whatever else is like, I need you to be
be a hero. Yeah.
heroic. And he is like 100% will do whatever
Yes,
you
I will
want.
do whatever you want.
I
Yes,
am now
exactly.
Superman
Yes. And so when they get back to her place, he goes in the bathroom and realizes that his nails have grown even more, like just through dinner,
right
and
away.
he breaks the nail file trying to fix it. And then he freaks out. So he texts Dr. Emily and she's like, "Okay, well tell her or make an excuse, but don't touch her." And he's like, "Ugh." So then we flash forward. It's been 4 nights later. He's been sleeping on the couch. Vanessa is confusion because she's like, dinner was perfect. It was like a perfect date. Everything was great. And all of a sudden he's not
He
touching.
also
Like,
wanted to
what's
marry
happening?
me, and now he won't come
Yes.
near
And
me.
now
Like,
he's, yes.
what?
She is confusion, poor thing. So apparently they've been making out periodically and some other things, but he won't sleep in bed next to her. And like he's not touching her with his hands. And they of course haven't had like full sex yet. So she's talking to Marjorie about it, who says, she's like, "You should just ask him. Like, isn't that y'all's whole thing? You agreed to be honest with each other. Like, you need to just ask him." And so she decides, "Yes, I am gonna go find him. That's great." So he's down in design. So on the way over
Poor
there,
Vanessa, because Vanessa is like, but this is scary and I don't like it. But
and Marjorie basically gives her the like speech, like, "We can do hard things. You're fine." Right?
yeah,
So she goes, she's on it. She's gonna go find him. So as she's walking across the campus of the like COE to find him, this delivery person like purposely gets in her way and knocks into her. And when she opens her eyes, she is in a horror show, which is the house that she spent
her
her first 10
childhood
years
home.
in.
Yeah.
And a person walks out of the bathroom and calls
It's
her by
really
name.
interestingly written because I was disoriented and
Definitely.
obviously she was too. It
I
was
was like,
like
is this
she's
just in her
falling.
brain or is she really here? Like that was ambiguous too at first, which I thought was so interesting. Yeah, it was really very disorienting. Fully agree. Um, and so and of course, on top of the disorientation for her is the horror of knowing immediately from the smell before she even like opens her eyes where she is and that she does not want to be here like
Yeah.
ever again. So this person walks out, calls her by name. They start asking her things about being a key, about number 62's reversion starting, does he remember his past, etc. And she gleans from this that this person is talking about Roland, but she has no clue about any of the rest.
Yeah. And when they're talking to her, like they seem to know her, but she has
Yeah.
no idea who any of these people are. Um, she's a
And
smart girl, so she's thinking through like,
yeah,
okay, this one's number three. Roland, I guess, is number 62.
yeah,
Um,
like there's supposedly 48 of the heroes. So she's like, where does 62 come from? Like, what's going on? And so she smarts off to them, which again, she's in her power now. She's not scared of like mouthing off to people. And actually, there's a bit of psychology at play here because she's in this house and she feels like nothing can hurt her here. Like she's been hurt here a million times and now in this place, nothing hurts. Like
she's used to.
she's
There's a
used to
couple
it.
times when things happen, like they smack her or whatever, and
Yeah.
she is like, anywhere else, this would be shocking, but I've been
I've
hit
been
in
here.
this
Yes.
place so much that
Yeah.
like
Not
it
even
doesn't.
phased. And she says she smarts off to her and she gets hit in the mouth and the rings on the person's hand like cuts her mouth or whatever.
He also
And
keeps grabbing her hips and like
like digging
it
in.
like hurts, it bruises.
Yeah. And so then they say, you should ask the COE who I am. I'm number three. And then they leave. And so Vanessa starts to freak out. She grabs her phone, which she had dropped earlier. She runs outside. So then we flip back to Roland. He's with Dr. Emily and Marjorie. So Marjorie saw his claws or whatever's happening when they were trying to fit these gloves for his like outfit and
They're trying to get him ready for like his first
like a
superhero photo
photo
shoot. Like
shoot.
there's
Right.
because it's PR, like it's so
Yes.
funny and odd
Yeah.
to be like he's saving lives and doing things, but also it's very like some of the stuff is very calculated
Right.
and
And
very
his,
like, oh, we need to keep to the schedule. You have to come back in time for blah blah blah.
right. And so
So
when the gloves won't fit, she goes with him to see Dr. Emily. And he needs his nails cut off again. He's like, we did this. It was a, an experiment. Like it's been 4 days. Like these need to be gone. I'm done with this.
and
And
they're
so
getting like they're using like
like a
heavy
grinder,
duty,
like
yeah,
a
like
grinder. And she says, Dr. Emily says to him, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you don't have nails. You have claws. Like I was pretty sure the other day when I took the sample, but like now I am sure for sure after the testing. And so she's like, we can do this. Like we can grind them off, but like they're just gonna come back and like you're gonna have to make peace with it, basically. And he's like, I'm not ready for that yet. Like get him off, right? So she grinds him down, and then Nessa calls his phone. She doesn't say anything at first. She just is crying. And he's like, "Where are you?" And she finally speaks. She says, "They brought me to my old house and left me here. I can't be here." Like that's how she puts it to him. And he
he's
says,
gone.
"Address." And she gives it to him and he's like, "I'm coming." And so he says it takes him 40 minutes to fly there. So like it's way out. Um, and she like runs to him. As soon as he lands, she like runs to him. He is trying not to freak out because she's bleeding and he doesn't know all like what is wrong. And she asks him to burn down the house for her, which of course he does with pleasure. And in fact, with a heart-shaped flame at the finish, like when it's done burning, because he
With
basically
panache, he
they
does it.
explain like how he burns everything and then he can kind of suck the fire back. So like there's no chance of anything like getting out of control or anything like that. Like he's fully in charge of it the whole time, basically, like even once it's off of his body. And so he burns it all down to nothing, including like the yard and everything, and then it like is like a heart at the end, and then it's like dead. And so um they kiss and she says, I'm ready to go. And they fly away. And so that's the end of chapter 19. And so it's interesting because you're in her head, I think once he like gets there and or right when she or no, before that, when she's about to call, because she's thinking, she's like, I have all these people in my phone I could call. I could call my brothers, I could call the COE, I could call anybody. I only want him.
He
Like
just wants
I'm
him.
gonna call him. And that's like the how she decided what to do. So yeah, clearly they're getting a lot closer than either well, Roland only ever
Initially
wanted
thought
to be
she did.
closer. She's getting a lot closer than she planned, that's for sure.
He didn't plan to either, except that
No,
once he met her, immediately he was like,
this
"This is
one.
my wife."
This one. Yes. So it's very sweet. So come back next week. We will have the last part and we'll find out what happens to these kids.
There.
You there?